Hey guys, it's Rich from Predator Ball Pythons, and on today's video we're going to talk about the number one most important thing to get right when keeping these amazing animals is setting up your thermostat correctly and getting your temperature right. Now if you like this video guys, please hit the like button and please subscribe, especially if you found it helpful. I'm trying to do a series of videos now aimed at beginners, trying to educate you guys who are new coming into the hobby, you know, to try and not make some of the mistakes I made and so many others made when we first joined the hobby. And today it's going to be on thermostats. Now let's talk about temperature guys. When it comes to reptiles in general, we need to get the temperatures right. They're cold-blooded animals, and in order for their bodies to function correctly and for them to be happy and healthy, they need to be in the right environment and they need to have the right temperature. Now I'll go on to talk about humidity and things like that and some of the more subtle environmental things to get right on a later video, but today I want to cover the number one most important thing, which is temperature. So let's dive straight into it and take a look at what I would recommend is probably the best type of thermostat you can get for your rack, for your vivarium, for your setup. Now I've used different thermostats over the years guys. I've used dimmers, I've used on and offs, but what I really would recommend for complete control is a pulse proportional thermostat. Now don't get me wrong, on and offs do work quite well, but what you've got to understand is the reason it's called an on and off is it will get to the desired temperature and switch off, and then there's a drop for a bit until it kicks back in because it realizes the temp's dropping, then it switches back on. So you get a little fluctuation. You don't get that with a pulse because it just consistently pulses energy to the heat source, literally keeping it at the desired temperature. Now this is a new one I've got here that I am going to install on my rack because I've got a on and off in part of my rack. We'll just get it out and show you, and I'm switching them all over to pulses. If you've got an incubator, you definitely want to use a pulse over an on and off because with eggs, you know, it's absolutely vital. But say you're watching this video and you're setting your ball python in a vivarium because it's a pet, you're not doing any breeding, this is applicable to everything we talk about today. All right. So obviously you've got your plug to plug it in. You've got your main dial, which you can see on there, which you're going to set your temperature at. And it will come with a little tool, which you use to just adjust it in there. You can get ones with actual dials on, but this is actually safer because a dial can be knocked and can rotate by accident and then can send your temperature right up or right down, depending on how you've knocked it. With this, you can't. You then got your socket here that you plug your heat source into. And a little trick for you, if you're doing a rack system, you can actually plug more than one plug into these if you swap it over. So if you look up a video on YouTube showing you how to change these sockets, I've done it on my rack. You can change it to a 4-gang socket, right? So it's all wired directly rather than plugging a 4-gang socket directly into this. We would change this over for a 4 socket. Then I can run 4 levels off this one thermostat, as long as the total wattage of all 4 mats, for example, are under the total wattage that the thermostat goes onto. All right. And then you've got your most important bit right there, the probe, okay, which should go into place on the heat end. So this is what a thermostat consists of, guys. Now let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes that you could make in setting this, and it's very much something that somebody new to the hobby would think. So we're aiming for 31 Celsius, right? In Fahrenheit, that's about what, 27.8, 28 Fahrenheit. If you guys were in the US, you would think as a newbie that you would set this to 31, place your probe on the warm end, and then you would get the desired temperature. Well, no, actually, that's not going to happen. What we need to do is we need to adjust this until we get the right temperature in the enclosure. Now let's just go and take a look at where I put the probe. Obviously guys, I'm going to be using a rack system to demonstrate this. If you are doing a vivarium, you will put your probe in the warm end underneath the heat source somewhere. So imagine you've got a ceramic bowl on a bulb on the top of your vivarium. You would run your thermostat probe down the side there, and you'd either have it on the side of the wall or on the bottom. When I used to do my vivariums, I used to put them on the bottom, and again you would adjust the temperatures until you get the temperature right in the warm end. So let's just talk about that a little, but first let's just go and take a look at probe placement. Okay guys, so we're going to go in here. You can see this is one of the levels, all right, on my rack system here. And this is a level that has one of the probes on it. And you can see I'm using foil tape, and we've got a hole at the back there, and it is just placed right onto the mat, okay, using foil tape, which is a great conductor, and it's literally on the mat. So if I heat gun this mat, now this has got a breeding female on it. So look, we're looking at 30 Celsius. As you move around, the temperature is going to change, and there's going to be a difference between when the tub's sitting on it and when it's not. But you can see that's about right for me in the mat, but it's going to obviously be the temperature as it goes through to the tub. And I do try and keep my breeding females around 29-ish, slightly cooler than your traditional 31C hotspot, or with my really younger snakes I keep them a little bit hotter. So with babies might go up to 32. I find that they range better on that. But there's probe placement, guys, and with this, as always, you always need to check that your probe is secure, that it's not coming up, and you need to check that daily. Let's just talk about actually checking temperatures now. Okay, so what we would do when checking the temperature is we're just going to heat gun the warm end, and as you can see, it is getting, so we're saying 29, that is perfect. This is a breeding female, and obviously it's going to get cooler because I've taken the tub out of my rack. For those of you with lid off, it's a lot easier because you can just slide your tub out and then check the temperature. She's nicely coiled there, but you're going to get a range in temps, so 29 for me is absolutely perfect for my breeding females, and I want to know that the temperature is right here on the warm end. Okay, so I do heat gun my mats just to check my mats, but it's actually the temp inside the enclosure on the warm end. That's where we're trying to get it right. And one of the biggest mistakes people could make is to set that thermostat at 31C or 29C or whatever it is you're aiming for your particular snake, and then thinking that that's what it's going to be. It needs to be in the enclosure. And the other trick is to heat gun your snakes and just see what they're sitting at, okay? And she's sitting at 29. And what you'll find with breeding females in particular is they get irritated when they get too hot. So it's always a good idea to actually heat gun the animal too and see what temperature they're actually sitting at, not just a hotspot and not just a mat. So it's one of the things I recommend doing, guys, is buying yourself a heat gun when you get your thermostat to help you set it. And like I said, one of the biggest mistakes would be thinking you're setting that dial to 31C and then it's going to be 31C in the enclosure, and actually you're only going to know what the temperature is going to be by measuring it and then adjusting the dial till you get the temperature right. Then after that, you're going to have to keep checking it every now and then and make sure that your temperatures are stable and do your spot checks. So you don't just set it once and then that's it. Like, you need to check it on a regular basis. So I will check my temperatures probably a couple of times a week. If I look at my enclosures and I see some unusual behavior, so for example, a snake that's always on the warm end is suddenly on the cool end, they're at the front of the tub. It's not a breeding female, so I don't think it's cooling behavior. I think it's an unusual behavior. I'm going to start thinking, has something gone wrong? And has that temperature changed? So what you've got to understand with these thermostats, they are great, they are hardy, they do last a long time, but they also can go wrong, and I've experienced that too. Back in the day, I used to have digital thermometers set to every single shelf, every single level, so that I could just eyeball them on a daily basis. And it was key one time because I came home and it was saying 41 Celsius, and it had malfunctioned. The thermostat broke and the mats were overheating. Luckily enough, I was able to get to it in time and swap it over and get a new one on there. So it's really, really important, guys, to understand that things can malfunction and to do your checks regular, all right? And obviously, if you can get a digital thermometer or something to put on each enclosure or on your enclosure to just give you a rough idea that everything's okay, by all means do it, all right? But watching the behavior of your animals will also tell you if something is wrong. It's really, really important. This is the number one most important thing when it comes to reptiles, is getting heating right and controlling that heat source. If we didn't control that heat source, it could really put the animal's life in danger, burn the animal, you know. It's just not worth thinking about, all right? Thermostats are an absolute must, but then getting them right is absolute key to keeping your animals happy and healthy, and especially if you're doing breeding, guys. So outside of the just keeping them in the pet, you know, people that are doing it for that reason, the people that are breeding too, temperatures are key. Like if I just had a normal ball python just as a pet, I mean, they're all pets, right? But I'm breeding as well. But if I was just keeping it year round, there was no breeding going on, I would keep that hot spot at 31C and I would leave it at that. But I actually make mine a bit cooler for my breeding males and my breeding females, so that I am doing the best for fertility, because I don't want to fry the sperm in the males. I also don't want to cook the eggs while they're growing and when they've been laid. I want to keep things a bit cooler, so I've got that safety net there, and I'll experience less dramas when they start laying eggs and then hatching animals, all right? Because temperatures is key, just like temperatures are key in your incubator too, all right? Now, I hope this video has been helpful to you guys, especially new guys coming in and understanding the mistake that you can make with the dial, understanding how to check it properly. Don't stress over it, okay? It's really, really important. Don't stress. Just adjust slowly but surely till you get it right. Do all this before you even receive your animal, and then you'll know the setup's correct as soon as they go in. But if something happens and your temperatures aren't right after the fact or later on down the line, just make the adjustment. Measure the temp, adjust the dial. Make sure the probe is secure and it's on that heat source or underneath it if you're using a vivarium. Guys, thanks very much. I hope this video has been helpful. Hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any hints or tips, as always, jump down in the comments and share. This is what this is all about, guys. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.